Local pastor Matt Baker has arrived home to find his wife Carrie unresponsive in their bedroom.
I put my head to her chest and no air coming out, felt for pulse, nothing.
An EMT told me that my daughter was dead.
There was a piece of paper on the end table and something didn't set right.
Your wife took her own life, and it's pretty obvious.
I just kept saying there's no way.
Was there an autopsy done initially?
There was no autopsy done.
We don't think Carrie killed herself. We know she didn't. Your assignment for today. We're investigating.
We did. It was nonstop all the time.
I would go, "Good morning, angels."
Harley's Angels of Waco. They were this group of strong women who were not going to just let this go.
You're presented with a crime scene that's not really a crime scene, right?
Things aren't adding up. I have to know the truth. What are you talking about? Murder?
EMS, what's your emergency?
My wife is laying in the bed. Her lips are blue, hands are cold.
It was just before midnight here in the small town of Hewitt, Texas, on the outskirts of Waco. Beloved minister Matt Baker comes home to find his wife unresponsive in their bedroom. Their two young daughters asleep in their beds. Matt calls 911.
Are you in there with her right now? Is she conscious?
No,
Is
she's
she
not.
breathing? Did you see what happened to her?
No, I do not know.
The ambulance is on the way, okay? Are you right beside her right now?
Yes.
Matt had been beside his wife Carrie since they met at a Baptist summer camp and fell in love.
I was the assistant director and she was one of the camp counselors. And from day one, we kind of hit it off.
Carrie fell head over heels. She told the family that she'd met a good Christian boy and she'd fallen in love.
Her faith was the core of who she was. And so it was very important to her that she found someone whose faith was aligned with hers.
Matt grew up in Kerrville. He too came from a very religious family.
Carrie, she was always the bubbly little blonde and just loved life. People were drawn to Carrie.
She was so funny. And when Carrie laughed, she laughed with her whole body. Everyone in the room just could feel her because she was just so free-spirited.
I don't think there was ever a question Carrie was right or not right for me. It was we moved fast. We met in May and married in August.
We tried to talk Carrie into waiting a little longer, and she really did not want to. Carrie was looking for a husband with morals and values that were similar to what she had, and Matt, she believed, had those.
That you may fear the Lord your God, to keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you.
She was marrying a Baptist minister. How good is that? You couldn't pick a better guy than Matt Baker.
Can you say Merry Christmas? No, here, take your pacifier out. Say Christmas. Can you give a kiss?
The kids came quickly.
Oh.
They looked like this perfect young couple with this beautiful baby.
Carrie wanted children. She always had, and she was a wonderful mother.
She's still so pink.
And then Cassidy came. It looked to the outside world like everything was just coming together for the Bakers.
If you know our children or not, this is my wife, Carrie, and it's special for me to do this because they are my children, they're our children.
Cassidy, hi.
But it was just after Cassidy's first birthday when the family was dealt some heartbreaking news about her.
And it turned out that she had a brain tumor. Carrie was devastated, absolutely devastated.
We went to Cook Children's Hospital in Fort Worth.
It was a scary time, and she struggled in pediatric ICU for 60 days. They started chemotherapy on her.
They didn't know if she would make it through, but she did.
We get to bring her home. That was one of the happiest days.
She needed a lot of care when she came home, but she was expected to recover.
The Academy Awards were playing that night, and I remember staying up watching that. I went in and checked on Cassidy, and she was fine. I gave her a kiss and said a prayer, checked on her older sister, kissed her, said a prayer, and went to bed.
A little while later, he got back up and went and checked on her a second time. This time he started screaming. Carrie jumped up, ran into the room, found Cassidy, and she wasn't breathing at all.
I yell at my wife as I'm taking her out of the bed, and I put her on the floor and I begin CPR. She calls 911.
They brought Cassidy to the hospital, but they weren't able to save her. Cassidy died.
I know we dealt with it differently. We would have discussions about it and pray about it, and it was a struggle.
Carrie bled grief after Cassidy died.
And she was having a difficult time sleeping.
Carrie had been taking over-the-counter sleep aid since Cassidy died.
She could not calm down at night without sleeping pills.
She started writing journals, and she just poured out incredible sorrow. She thought she saw Cassidy wherever she went.
It was horrible. What helped Carrie, in addition to her faith and her family, was she saw a grief counselor for a year. She talked and talked things through.
The death of a child always puts a terrible strain on a marriage. Carrie really fought to keep that marriage together. She loved Matt. She wanted it to work out.
I just told Carrie that men and women often grieve in different ways.
In time, the Bakers and their daughter tried to move ahead with their lives.
It was a year and a half after Cassidy's death. Carrie found out that she was pregnant. Carrie said that the baby was coming by the grace of God.
There was definitely a fear in my wife that I had not seen before. A fear of what if. I lost one, what if we lose another one? I can't handle that.
She loved her girls, and she was so strong for them. Cassidy's life was cut short, but she had them.
The four of them looked like this perfect little family. You would think, oh, look, they just have it all.
EMS, what's your emergency?
Almost exactly 7 years after the death of her daughter Cassidy, Carrie is now seemingly lifeless on their bedroom floor while her husband works to save her.
Do compressions first, okay? Just keep doing compression.
Waco is a great city. It's very religious. You can't walk a block without seeing a church.
It's small enough that most people are just a degree or two away from knowing everybody else.
Hewitt, Texas is a suburb of Waco. Back then, maybe 12,000 people. They have their own city, government, police.
And when Carrie and Matt moved in, they quickly became part of the community.
But in early April 2006, right here in the heart of the Bible Belt, a chaotic scene is unfolding inside this house. Local pastor Matt Baker has arrived home to find his wife Carrie unresponsive in their bedroom.
And what's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
My wife is laying in the bed,
Uh-huh.
and her lips are blue, hands are cold.
Is she conscious?
No, she's
She's
not.
breathing?
No, she's not breathing at all, no pulse or anything.
I put my head to her chest and didn't see or feel her chest rising, no air coming out, felt for pulse, nothing.
Okay, listen carefully. I need you to get her laying flat on her back on the ground and remove any pillows, okay?
Okay, put her on the floor.
Correct.
Put her on the bed now. Put her
All right, she needs to be on the floor, yes, sir.
Okay.
The 911 operator tells Matt to do CPR, to put Carrie on the floor and start CPR.
Do that and tell me when you're done.
Okay, hold on. Hey, hold on. Oh, my. Okay, hold on.
I did not want the EMTs to come in and see her naked. And so I put her clothes on her, for her. And as I'm taking her off the bed, fluid comes out of her mouth onto the floor, and it smells of alcohol.
You're going to push down firmly 2 inches with only your lower hand touching her chest. You're going to do it fast and hard 400 times.
400?
400 times is the latest we've been instructed to do, okay?
400.
Twice per second.
Rest it off?
After the 400. You're going
400 of it?
correct. It's going to be about twice per second. It'll take you about 3.5 minutes to do it, okay? So start right now. I'll tell you when to stop. All right.
While on the phone, Matt asks the 911 operator to call Carrie's parents because he says his daughters are also in the house.
I need to get a hold of her parents. They live in town, and I want them to come over and be with the kids.
Get somebody else started on this, okay?
Thank you.
We received a phone call from the 911 operator telling us that we needed to get over to my daughter's house, that there had been an accident. We needed to get over there immediately.
Oh, she's got foam or something coming out of her nose. Okay, someone's at the front door. I gotta go.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
All right.
My name is Michael Irvin. I was a patrol officer with the city of Hewitt, and at that time I had only had about 6 months of actual law enforcement experience. I was the first officer to respond to the house. There was actually an EMT that met me in the front yard. Matt Baker actually met us outside and then walked us in, and he took us straight into the bedroom where his wife was at.
The EMTs go in and they find Carrie on the floor. She's wearing a t-shirt and a pair of underpants.
And they come in, and I step away and let them start working.
There was a glass there that was actually still cold, if I remember correctly, which led into his account of what happened that night.
It'd been a typical Friday night that Matt says started with him and Carrie sharing a drink before heading to the local Y.
And we had a wine cooler that I'd purchased, and so she drank one, I drank one. We take our oldest daughter to swim practice that night. On the way, my wife started saying her stomach was hurting her. She just felt nauseated, wasn't feeling very good.
After the family returns home, Matt says Carrie still wasn't feeling well, and after taking a bath, she heads to bed while he starts the bedtime rituals with her daughters.
It's a Friday night, so they could stay up later. They could stay up till 10 o'clock watching TV. Came back, laid down with my wife. She's still in bed, half asleep, and she wants another drink. She has a drink, I have one too. She goes to sleep, wakes up at about 11 o'clock, and asks me to go get a movie. And I was like, it's 11 o'clock. She goes, well, go get this movie for me and gas up, because we have a busy day tomorrow.
He left to go get a movie. While he was gone, he came back and he discovered that he couldn't get back in.
Walk to the bedroom door and it's closed. And I try the knob and it's locked. And I knock on it and call her name, Carrie, and there's no response.
Matt says he finds a small screwdriver to try to open the door.
So I pop the lock and open the door and find her in bed. And it was very eerily similar to walking in the room when I found Cassidy.
As EMTs in the Baker residence work on Carrie, police take note of those wine coolers on the bedside table and something else.
There was this bottle of Unisom that it was almost empty.
She had been taking sleeping pills to go to sleep since Cassidy passed away and started taking more and more of them. And we had discussions that you've got to stop doing this. This is too many. This can be dangerous.
We ran out of the car, and as I started running up to the front of the house, an EMT person stood in front of me and grabbed me and told me that my daughter was dead. I just kept saying, there's no way.
There was a piece of paper on the end table, and something didn't set right. For me, it all pointed back to that note.
A frenzied scene has been unfolding in the middle of the night at the Baker's home. Matt Baker's wife is dead, and there's a note.
On the bedside table, there's a suicide note.
That was the first time that the word suicide entered my mind. I had no idea at that moment what had happened.
In the note, there was reference to Cassidy. Matt explained to me that Cassidy was their daughter. And it's a very difficult time for Carrie because of the anniversary of Cassidy passing away. The first person I remember showing up after me, I explained all the things that Matt had showed me, and I took a step back.
In Texas, in small counties where they don't have medical examiners, the justices of the peace decide what happens when there's an unexplained or a sudden death.
I do remember in that phone call, it was Judge Martin.
They told him they had a suicide note and they had alcohol and that they had pills. And Billy Martin did not order an autopsy.
It was classified as a suicide based on the preliminary investigation and what they saw at the scene.
Police involvement at that point is done.
Carrie Baker's family and her church community are shocked by her suicide.
I hurt for her. I hurt that someone hurt enough that they made that choice.
We're just trying to put one foot in front of the other and get through this. This is...
Less than 1 week after Carrie's funeral, Pastor Matt Baker is back at the pulpit here at Crossroads Baptist delivering the Easter sermon. He tells his congregation that just like Jesus, Carrie has risen up to heaven.
There was always the desire in her to be with a daughter that was in heaven now. And she did voice that several times, that Cassidy needed her, she needed Cassidy.
This was my wife's Bible that she carried for years.
Matt had given her a Bible years earlier, and she started writing her feelings in the margins.
She says, I want to go with Cassidy. She could never let go of Cassidy. It was such a strong hold on her.
The week Carrie died, she had a session with her grief counselor and also saw a doctor who prescribed her medication.
The next day she ripped up the prescription, she wouldn't fill it.
After finding out Carrie died, I had talked to my sister Kay. I just kept saying, there's no way.
Carrie would never take her own life.
And then that's when she told me about a visit she got from Joanne.
Joanne Bristol is Carrie's grief counselor and also friends with Carrie's aunt, Kay Bailey.
She had had a session with Carrie earlier that week. She had shared with me what Carrie had shared with her, that Carrie found some crushed pills in Matt's briefcase.
Joanne Bristol also shared that detail and others with police in the days following Carrie's death.
My sister Kay and I, we all started talking, not around Linda. We all were sitting there going, what are we going to do? Because we knew so much about Matt.
We worked at a church camp together. Matt, I believe, had been written up at that particular camp for harassing girls that I went to school with.
There was also an alleged incident from his college days involving a fellow student.
I was afraid of him. I was angry with him. He took away virtually my young adulthood.
Laura Wilson filed a complaint against Matt, saying he sexually assaulted her.
We were both student trainers for the athletic department. He was a sophomore trainer and I was a freshman trainer.
She was cleaning the bathrooms. Matt came in and offered to help.
He came up behind me and he pinned my arms behind my back and started trying to kiss me. I kept telling him to stop. He came up from behind me, picked me up, sat me on his lap, and he began running his hand between my legs. I was struggling to get away. He didn't stop with the kiss. He didn't stop with the touching until he was ready to stop. Now I'm left with myself, violated, in shock, not knowing what to do.
All I can tell you is when she left the facility, was in tears, but nothing that I did.
After the assault happened, his words to me were, "I never meant to hurt you."
At the time, Laura told a college staffer about the alleged assault. Matt was not disciplined.
I dropped out, dealt with recurring nightmares, dealt with trust issues in relationships. It derailed my life for many, many years. I became a different person.
She eventually filed a report with police years later. They began looking into the allegations, but stopped once they realized the statute of limitations had passed. Matt Baker denies assaulting Laura or harassing any female campers.
Things have been said that can be misconstrued, misinterpreted, but I can say this, I never accosted anybody.
Throughout Matt and Carrie's marriage, rumors of alleged inappropriate sexual behavior would continue to follow the preacher, but his wife stood by him.
She loved Matt. When Carrie heard allegations that Matt had been inappropriate with young women, she was his staunchest defender. She told one young woman, when you marry a Baptist preacher, women are going to come forward and make false allegations, and you have to protect them.
Carrie believed him, and we believed Carrie. She was telling us the truth, as she knew it.
I think there's a presumption with a man of God that they have a certain character and a certain ethical base, and we believe that.
Linda's sisters had hoped that by talking to her about the various past allegations against Matt, she might start to see him in a different light. But she didn't. She still had faith in her son-in-law.
My sisters came over, and I told them, let's just grieve and let this go.
But the family wouldn't let it go.
It started with the cell phone records.
And Linda soon makes a startling discovery.
Something wasn't right.
Over the years, since her daughter Cassidy's death, Carrie Baker was in and out of counseling, dealing with her grief, especially around the time of year when Cassidy died.
Anytime you got close to the anniversary of the death of Cassidy or her birthday or holidays, there was definitely a deep sadness.
But there was more going on that year. There was the fact that she was uncertain about her relationship with Matt. She sensed that something was very wrong. After Carrie's death, Linda's sisters sat down with Linda and said, we don't believe that Carrie committed suicide.
While Linda may have still been processing her daughter's loss, her family's emotions had quickly turned to suspicion.
I remember Nancy saying, Linda, have you ever considered that perhaps Carrie didn't take her life? I remember stammering and saying, oh, what are you talking about? Murder?
We don't think Carrie killed herself. We know she didn't.
The family decides to tell Linda what they say they learned from Carrie's therapist.
Carrie had shared with her that she'd found some crushed pills in Matt's briefcase, and she was afraid that Matt might possibly try to kill her.
She said, I think Matt's trying to kill me. And then she started laughing and she said, oh no, Matt would never do that.
But at the same time, I thought this would make more sense because I knew that Carrie would never take her own life.
I think if truly Carrie went and said that and was fearful for her life, the counselor should have done more and didn't. Looking back, I think it was a scream, the first scream in a series of screams that took place that week of, I'm hurting more than you think I am.
Murder, I mean, that's just not something that I could wrap my head around. I needed time to think, to process. This was too difficult for me to be able to discuss.
But then shortly after Carrie's death, Linda says she began to notice Matt was keeping her granddaughters away from her. No more babysitting, no more invitations to school events.
At that point, she started to feel a little different. What was going on here and why was this happening?
Linda remembers Matt and Carrie's cell phones were part of her family plan, so she decides to have a look at the phone bill.
The first really odd thing she noticed was that Matt had continued to call Carrie's cell phone weeks after Carrie had died. It made no sense at all, and then it all started to click. Matt's giving Carrie's phone to someone.
And I think you said calling all angels, but we all went over to your house. You said, we need to get together and talk.
At that point, Linda started to think that maybe her sisters were right, and maybe they really did need to look into this.
It started with the cell phone.
And I immediately figured out it was Vanessa Bowles.
Vanessa Bowles was the daughter of the music minister at Crossroads Church, where Matt was the preacher.
The relationship really started between my wife and her. They became friends.
Vanessa had a little girl that reminded Carrie of the baby she had lost.
There were only 3 young families in the church that had small children, so we naturally just kind of congregated together because we had similar interests. We were friends.
Vanessa would later describe in a recorded interview how she says the friendship evolved.
So I just got divorced, and it was nice to have someone, to talk to,
Right.
Who was in a pastoral position.
And she gives her explanation of why she has Carrie's phone.
We were starting to talk and become friends. Then I said, don't call my cell because my mom pays for my meds and I don't want to run over during the day. I've done that many times before. And he was like, well, I still have Carrie's phone, so I can give that to you.
Maybe Matt was simply seeking comfort in the friendship of a fellow churchgoer. But for Linda, those phone bills had set off alarm bells.
Linda went to the Hewitt Police Department. She showed them the phone bills, but they weren't interested. This was a done case. It was over as far as they were concerned.
That's when Linda said, I need my angels over here.
I would email them. I would go, good morning, angels.
She would always tell us, you need to do this. And
here's your assignment for today.
We're investigating.
We did. It was nonstop all the time.
The assignments Linda gave out involved going through the garbage.
And Charlie was doing some digging right alongside her angels as well. She researched whether overdosing on a sleep aid could have really killed Carrie. And she questioned Matt about those alleged crushed pills.
I talked to Matt about the crushed pills.
My wife said she found him in my briefcase when she was looking for a pen. She said, well, did a kid where you work put him in your bag?
Matt claims that, unknown to him, some kids at work may have been spitting out pills into his briefcase.
But that seemed odd because the pills didn't look like they'd been spit out.
What he said couldn't have happened.
And so Kay called Judge Billy Martin to find out why he had ruled Carrie's death a suicide.
I had talked to him about the suicide note, and he mentioned it being signed, and I said it was not. And he goes, well, you need to talk to the police. I said, we've already done this, and we just want somebody to investigate it more.
And it was about that time where Matt's story no longer made sense. There were inconsistencies, outright lies, and we needed more answers.
So following the family's urging, police bring Pastor Matt Baker in for questioning.
Well, I just want to sit and talk to him.
Questions needed to be asked, and questions needed to be answered.
"31-year-old Carrie Baker has been found dead in her home. It was deemed a suicide by police, but her family began investigating on their own, and they urged police to question her husband, preacher Matt Baker.
I just want to sit and talk to him. I just want to talk about what happened that night.
Absolutely.
That way we can clear all this up, because I'm sure you know what I'm getting at. Okay, as far as Linda, you know what I'm saying?
It was a very odd week. But not behavior that would have raised red flags.
Right.
If that makes sense. It was one of those deals that I knew she was depressed.
The conversation continues, with Matt sharing his own view on what he believes might have happened.
I left about 11 or so. I wasn't gone maybe 40 minutes.
You left the house and went down to the gas station?
I wasn't even gone long at all.
Okay.
And that was the strange thing about it, is I question where she would have taken the medicine. Personally, this is my opinion. I don't think the medicine is what killed her. I think she threw up into her mouth, but was knocked out enough and choked on it. So no, I don't know if that's just me trying to put stuff together to make it, I don't know.
Okay. Like I said, that's all I just wanted to sit and holler at you about. One last thing, to kind of quell everything. If I asked you to take a polygraph test, would you be willing to do so?
Okay.
Matt eventually passes a polygraph arranged by his attorney. Upset that police continue to consider Carrie's death a suicide, Linda pulls together a team of her own.
Linda ended up making an appointment to talk to a former federal prosecutor.
Now in private practice, Bill Johnston had been a federal prosecutor in Waco, Texas.
The Branch Davidian complex in Waco, Texas goes up in flames.
11 of the survivors now face murder and conspiracy charges in connection with the killing of 4 federal agents.
And in 1993, he was part of the team prosecuting the 11 surviving Branch Davidians.
Those agents did not die in vain.
Mrs. Doolin came to me and she said, "I've heard maybe you can help me."
She explained to Bill that she doesn't believe her daughter took her own life, so she'd been working on Carrie's case with her angels.
What Charlie's angels were bringing to us was invaluable. They were this group of strong women who were not going to just let this go. They brought a series of stories about Matt's conduct at different points in his life.
Bill pulled together his own posse. He brought together retired lawmen to take over this investigation.
So I called them my guys, and they became as invested in this case as if they were fighting for their own child.
The biggest thing was to get the body exhumed, get an actual autopsy, and find out what had actually happened to Carrie Baker, how she'd actually died.
We started unraveling this thing bit by bit by bit.
Matt Coffin is a member of the legendary Texas Rangers. He joins the team and reviews the evidence on the case.
There are red flag after red flag that something was not right. It was so compelling that I could not automatically agree with the Hewitt police investigation. So I thought, okay, let's kind of break it down.
You're presented with a crime scene that's not really a crime scene, right?
These are photographs. As you can tell, there's just not much to them. There were so many things early on in this investigation that just did not match. And part of it was Matt Baker's explanation of his timeline.
He says he left and then he came back, and it was such a short time that she couldn't have died within that period.
That was the theory that we were operating on. His timetable did not really match up. This is an overall view of Hewitt, Texas, and it's not large.
And these locations are very close to each other.
Minutes apart, especially that time of night.
The team was also troubled by Carrie's suicide note, which Officer Michael Irving says was pointed out by Matt.
He just said, there's a suicide note, suicide note, suicide note. So he did direct me straight to the note.
The so-called suicide note was typed.
It's not signed, and that should be a red flag to any investigator. Let's take this a little bit further. It says, tell my mom and dad that I love them too. In this case, two is T-O, not comma, T-O-O.
She was a teacher. She could spell.
Yes.
Something didn't set right. And for me, it all pointed back to that note, that suicide note. I didn't speak up. At that time, I'd been a police officer for 6 months. If I could go and turn back time, there are a lot of things I would have done differently.
Was there an autopsy done initially?
There was no autopsy done. And so at this point, we decided that we needed to have tissue samples from Carrie's body, so we wanted to have that body exhumed.
At the time of the Hewitt police investigation, they concluded Carrie had died by suicide of over-the-counter sleep medication.
One of the tasks that Linda took on for herself was investigating Unisom. She found that it would have taken a great deal to have caused Carrie's death, and that she wouldn't have died quickly.
We came up with clues that made us believe that perhaps there were prescription medications given to her without her knowledge.
Nearly 4 months after Carrie's death, the Texas Rangers, in conjunction with Hewitt Police, are able to get Judge Martin to sign an order allowing for the exhumation of Carrie's body.
As we gathered information from various sources, determined to, we need to go that route.
By this time, we were working pretty closely with a detective at the Hewitt Police Department.
It was critical that they had an autopsy.
We had a lot of circumstantial evidence, but we needed some scientific evidence. Something that a prosecutor can hold in their hands and say, okay, now we may have something here.
What else would the Charlie's Angels of Waco and their investigative team learn?
A photograph was found on Matt Baker's computer. He tried to delete it.
We didn't know if she might have even been involved.
Was Carrie's death a terrible tragedy or something much more sinister?
A manipulative liar wearing the mask of God came into my life.
The Hewitt preacher's wife was found dead. Her death, originally ruled a suicide. But is that how the mother of two really died?
Maybe someone had held that coarse material against her nose.
I think Carrie, on some level, understood that she was in danger.
But you also discover in that Bible, Lord, I'm asking you to protect me from harm.
He's having a conversation with the 911 operator, and he's not winded, and he's perfectly calm while he's talking. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think it happened that way.
You don't quickly dress a dead body.
Here's a picture of Matt Baker. Is this the other woman?
I'm gonna tell what you did. And he said, you better not do that.
Sometimes faith can be used to manipulate and to control people.
Preachers, the good ones are great. The bad ones have the most power of anybody.
I knew that Carrie would never take her own life.
We will fight for the truth.
Could Carrie have been murdered? The Hewitt police, now collaborating with Texas Ranger Matt Coffon, who's been working with Carrie's family, obtained an order to exhume Carrie's body. And the autopsy results are now in.
In her muscle tissue, there was a presence of Ambien. And that was huge, huge.
And at the time of her death, she didn't have a prescription for Ambien.
No.
The autopsy now lists Carrie's manner of death as undetermined.
Now you're in undetermined land. Now you're in a mystery. Now let's solve the mystery.
Bill Johnston and his team continue to dig, now taking a closer look at those few crime scene photos.
What's this?
This is a picture of Carrie's arm. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing the beginning of lividity, the purplish color from the pooling of the blood. You know, when the heart pumps, it pumps through the veins and the arteries. When the heart stops, everything settles to its lowest point. It's gravity. We have lividity set in the body, and that takes time. And this was a problem with Bill Johnston and his team.
And so we found the person who wrote the book on crime scene reconstruction, Tom Bevel.
The first responders from the medical field are saying that lividity either was setting in or set, which in that time frame, that's a problem.
So this is their home right there, right?
Yeah, this is their home. So if he leaves his house at 11, 45 to 55 minutes later, lividity could not have been set in as it was in the photographs, all right?
Cawthon and the team believe that Carrie was likely dead before Matt Baker left his home. So if Carrie's suicide was a homicide, how was she killed? The photograph showed something more.
In one of the photographs, there is a small abrasion that is to the bridge of her nose.
We surmised that this was very likely done using a throw pillow off of a couch. It was kind of a coarse material that very likely could have caused an abrasion.
Indicating that maybe someone had held that coarse material against her nose.
That's right.
The abrasion on Carrie's nose, it's not noted in the autopsy, but the presence of the generic form of Ambien is. So Bill Johnston wants to look into Matt's digital trail. He sues Matt for wrongful death and obtains access to his computer records.
A month before Carrie's death, they discovered Matt was on the computer searching for the term overdose by sleeping pills.
I did search that. I did research to see, can you overdose? Is that even a possibility that I need to worry about? My wife overdosing on sleeping pills.
As they continued to go through the computer, they found where he tried to buy Ambien, had moved it into a cart to purchase it.
And that bit of forensics in the computers now hard linked into the toxicology forensics. Our theory became, the Ambien in the wine cooler, he got her sleepy with that so he could later suffocate her. That was our theory.
And remember those writings in Carrie's Bible about Cassidy? Well, those were written years earlier. But there was a recent troubling entry dated just 5 days before Carrie's death, which says, I feel like I have so much worry. Lord, I'm asking you to protect me from harm. I am not sure what is going on with Matt. What does that indicate?
It's ominous. It's almost like she is afraid of him.
Looking back on it, they were predictive.
I think Carrie, on some level, understood that she was in danger, and she didn't realize that at that point that he was involved with somebody else.
During this investigation, we got a clue from a woman who worked in a jewelry store and said within a couple of weeks after Carrie's death, Matt Baker comes into the jewelry store with a woman, and they're looking at engagement rings.
No, we were not. One of our rules for our kids was when they turn 6 years old, they can get earrings. And so we began looking for jewelry, earrings.
Here's a picture of Matt Baker. Is this the other woman?
This is Vanessa Bulls. She was the other woman. Now, this is a photograph that we found on his computer in trash.
We knew there was going to be a birthday party. And we took a picture of all the girls and Matt and Vanessa.
It wasn't long after Carrie's death when people came over, they didn't see any pictures of Carrie at all. But there was a picture of Vanessa with the girls. 2 of Carrie and Matt's friends came to help with the party, and one of them stayed overnight. And she saw Matt sitting on the couch with Vanessa's head on his lap.
To Carrie's family, it was clear that a romantic relationship had developed between Matt and Vanessa. 4 months after Carrie's death, police believe Vanessa Bowles just might be the key to solving this case. So they bring her to the Hewitt Police Station for questioning.
It's just scary.
I know. Sorry to keep you waiting. Like I said, I'm going to ask you some questions about that, Carrie.
Okay.
This doesn't mean that you're innocent, okay?
I'm sorry, this is just scary.
I know.
4 months after Carrie's death, Vanessa Bowles, the woman who appears to have become romantically involved with Matt Baker, is now sitting at the police station, answering questions about how that relationship unfolded.
Every once in a while, he started calling just to chat, just kind of asking about my divorce and, you know, kind of saying how, like, God would work everything out.
How long was that it took it to progress to him calling a couple times a day?
I want to say a couple of weeks. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't nice to have someone who, you know, had 2 daughters and would possibly, you know, be the dad to my child.
Sure.
Having an affair that predated the killing, that would be big evidence.
Did you ever meet him romantically?
No.
Never? Okay. Okay.
After yes. After his wife passed away.
Okay.
Because I didn't think there was anything wrong.
2020 obtained emails, never before broadcast, that show Carrie and Matt's relationship unraveling in the weeks before Carrie's death, at the same time as Matt and Vanessa's phone calls start to heat up.
She sensed that something was very wrong.
In one of those emails, Matt blames Carrie for Cassidy's death, writing you wanted her to be pain-free, and then telling her your prayer was the one that was answered.
That made her angry, and she was going to leave him. I suggested they get counseling.
Back in that police interview, Vanessa, who at this point had broken things off with Matt, seems open to believing he could have murdered Carrie.
Do you think that he had anything to do with her death?
I think anything's possible now.
The Hewitt preacher's wife was found dead in her home. Her death, originally ruled a suicide. But now, nearly a year and a half later, a judge has set a hearing to try to determine if that is how the mother of 2 really died.
A formal inquest into Carrie's death was held, but in the end, the justice of the peace, who initially declared it a suicide, made the same determination that the autopsy had made a year earlier.
That Carrie Lynn Baker's manner and cause of death shall be recorded as undetermined.
So what do you do?
And at some point, we have to do what we think is right. And in this case, it was to get an arrest warrant for Matt Baker.
Even though it wasn't ruled a homicide, nearly a year and a half after Carrie's death, Matt Baker is arrested for her murder.
Matt Baker is accused of drugging his wife Carrie with sleeping pills and then suffocating her with a pillow.
There's no way that he could take a life. I know my sons, and I just don't believe he could do that.
And we have breaking news for you now from the McLennan County Jail.
Matt Baker could be released any time now. His $200,000 bond has been paid in cash.
My best decision was to move away from there and to move back here to my hometown, where I felt support and felt loved.
And it's in Kerrville, about 200 miles from Hewitt, that our cameras catch up with Matt and his daughters.
This is a little bit of everything. They have a cafe where they take flowers and they crush them up and pretend it's chicken noodle soup. Don't be embarrassed.
2020 gets a glimpse of life with their father.
Favorite thing to do is play with my dad.
After losing their mother.
Each have their own,
Mine, hers.
you know, and they separate pants from shirts.
I pick mine and then he picks hers.
But I have to okay hers.
Yes.
Why?
Because she likes spaghetti straps.
But I don't wear them to school. I'm not allowed.
And during this last year, he was a single parent, working and taking care of these girls. They emotionally attached to their dad very strongly, the younger one especially.
This is my favorite toy because it used to be my dad's when he was a little kid.
Once Matt was released, he went on kind of a press tour.
He tried to tell the world his side of the story.
Would Matt Baker have the nerve to actually interview for and take, do a photo shoot with Texas Monthly? Yes, he would.
Pretty much anybody who wanted to talk with him, Matt Baker had an open door.
Tonight on 2020, was it suicide or murder?
The story goes national, and Matt Baker sits down with 2020 for an interview. He proclaims his innocence and denies he had an affair with Vanessa Bowles.
It was a friend, it was a very good friend, but there's nothing there now. I don't believe in adultery, I don't believe in divorce.
The problem was that for him was that he changed his story a little bit every time he gave one.
Matt tells 2020 that it was the police who found that suicide note.
One of the police officers found it and handed it to me, and I held it in my hands for a brief moment, and I looked at the first line, and I handed it back and said, I can't read it right now.
But listen as Matt refers to that suicide note in his 911 call.
My wife is laying in the bed, and her lips are blue, hands are cold, and there's a note that says, I'm sorry, basically.
There's no way I could ever have hurt my wife. I loved her. She's the mother of my children, and I miss her, and I did not hurt my wife.
We felt validated with the arrest, but I'm going to tell you right now, all the arrests in the world mean nothing without a good prosecution.
The Texas Rangers made an arrest on the case, and the case was then transferred to our office. And I believed that Matt had killed Carrie, but I didn't feel like that we had the proof to take it to a trial and get a conviction.
If you get an acquittal, it's over.
6 months after Matt Baker's arrest, the murder charge is dismissed after prosecutors failed to indict him.
It was frustrating, but I mean, we knew it would take time and we weren't going to stop.
People started running around town with bumper stickers that said "Justice for Carrie." Love trumps evil was underneath it.
We had truth on our side. We had God on our side.
We had Bill Johnston, and we were going to continue civilly.
But his story was not adding up anymore.
You wouldn't have left those two girls there if you didn't think it was safe.
And would Matt's account of what he says he did when he found Carrie check out?
He's not winded, and he's perfectly calm while he's talking. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it happened that way, John. I just don't.
When the criminal case was stalled and it wasn't going forward, Bill Johnston filed a wrongful death case, and that allowed him to subpoena Matt Baker for a deposition.
It's the lower left of the...
2.5 years after the death of his wife, Matt Baker is on the hot seat, answering questions under oath about the night she died.
About 10:45-ish, a little before 11, she asked me if I could run a couple of errands.
Now, had she sort of refreshed herself and gotten awake and got forward thinking by that time?
It was still kind of that half awake, just talking, but still kind of real drowsy.
I'm conjecturing that it went through his mind that maybe she already took all the sleeping pills before he left.
Was she aware enough that you could observe that she could handle If the kids needed her, for instance.
I would have, yeah, I felt that she probably could.
She had to be fine, or else she was incapacitated, and he was a bad father, and he just left his girls with an incapacitated person. Which one is it, Matt? So he chose the high road, that yes, Carrie was fine. So if Carrie's fine, she's not getting ready to die.
Bill was able to ask him question after question after question and get answers from him that were very helpful.
While you have the phone pressed against your shoulder, you put on her panties first, is that correct?
I believe that's right.
And then what did you do?
And I put on her shirt.
Okay, and she's on the bed at this time?
Correct.
But Matt had told police a different version of how he dressed Carrie that night.
So I put the panties on her in the bed as I was getting her out, and then when she was on the floor, I put her shirt on.
The clothing, it appears consistent, especially her panties, as to how you would typically find if they were put on by the individual, not somebody else, with a lady who is not able to assist.
If he would lie about dressing her, why? And he wanted to explain their body was cold by saying she was nude on top of the bed, as if she would have aired out, cooled off.
Just a stick figure put where she came to rest once you moved. How difficult was that to move her?
I guess at the time you don't even think about it. You just do what you have to do.
We wanted to know if Matt's story holds up, so we asked Texas Ranger Matt Cawthon to put it to the test with a dummy roughly the same weight as Carrie's at the time of her death.
He would have had to reposition the body. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think it happened that way, John. I just don't.
How much time would he have had to do this between the call to 911 and the chest compressions?
About 2 minutes.
To dress her, put her body on the floor, all while on the phone with 911. We're going to see if you can do this. I'm going to put a stopwatch to it, and here we go. And you're doing it as fast as you can.
Well, I'm doing the best I can. And I feel the phone's about to fall.
We're at 48 seconds now. We're about a minute 20.
He's having a conversation with the 911 operator, and he's not winded, and he's perfectly calm while he's talking to the 911 operator.
That's 1 minute 57 seconds. And then
just to get her dressed. That doesn't include the removing from the bed and the chest compression.
And I know how to do CPR.
Oh, you do?
In listening to the 911 call, it sounded phony.
Do I need to go unlock the front door?
I'll let you know when they start getting close, okay?
Okay.
I think he'd give himself an Oscar, and I'd give him a Rotten Tomato.
Just keep doing compression.
I would not have known at the time when I got there that he had been doing CPR.
You're still doing compressions?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
he did not sound winded on the phone.
No, not at all. He didn't have to do chest compressions because she was already dead. He killed her, I think, before he left to go run alibi errands.
Despite Matt's inconsistencies, prosecutors feel they need more, so they bring in a new detective to help with the investigation.
My name is Abden Rodriguez, and in 2009, I was a criminal investigator for the McLennan County District Attorney's Office.
I hear they call you the human lie detector?
I guess because of some of the confessions that I was able to get.
Abdon is asked to review the case and find evidence that would help indict Matt Baker.
I wanted to look at the interviews that had been done. There was a lot of deception, you know, and I could see how, especially Vanessa was doing it.
How many times a week would you talk, you think, prior to her death? Once every day for a couple hours, and maybe midday, or?
Sometimes a couple times a day.
As you can see, she's got her arms crossed and her legs crossed. That's a big red flag to me.
When she passed away that week, how were the conversations? Were they kind of the same way they were before?
They were really the same.
And I told him, and I said, look, The whole key to this case is going to be Vanessa Booth. She's pretty and very smooth and friendly, but at the same time, you know she's a liar.
We didn't know if she might have even been involved.
After interviewing Vanessa, Abdon decides to subpoena her to testify in front of a grand jury.
I said, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to listen to your testimony. And I said, and as soon as you lie, I'm going to file charges on you.
When they brought Vanessa Bowles in for the grand jury, that was kind of a last-ditch effort.
So we're like, okay, let's see what happens.
As she and I were walking down the hall, she whispered to me, I'm going to tell y'all everything.
Behind closed doors, Vanessa Bowles' grand jury testimony is the last step in getting Matt Baker indicted.
A former preacher charged with the murder of his wife.
Finally, Vanessa's testimony is the smoking gun.
Yes, it was. It was. She had everything we needed.
The civil case was dropped at that point in order to let the criminal case continue.
Matt Baker is charged with first-degree murder, accused of drugging and suffocating his wife, Carrie, and making it look like a suicide. He pleads not guilty. Now, 4 years after his wife's death, Matt Baker is on trial for her murder.
That first day of the trial, the gallery was full.
We have a lot of people here in the gallery today.
True crime author 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 𝐄𝐏𝐻𝐒 was in the courtroom every day.
I followed this story from the first time it hit the Texas newspapers. It was just so fascinating that this had unfolded, especially in Waco, in this city that's just dominated by religion.
Prosecutors began poking holes in Matt's story from that night, starting with a 911 call and his claim that he performed CPR on Carrie.
We're going to go ahead and do compressions. You're going to do it fast and hard 400 times. 400? 400 times.
Did any police officers arrive before you?
I was the first one there.
And what did he tell you?
He pulled her off the bed and put her on the floor in order to do CPR.
And what was his demeanor?
Very calm.
Did that strike you as odd?
Yes. Even as a police officer, I would not be as calm as he was that night.
There was no way that in that period of time he was able to move her, dress her, and was doing CPR while he was having this conversation.
He wasn't sweating. He did not seem to be in any type of physical distress.
The computer expert found incredible evidence regarding searches, regarding suicide, regarding sleeping pills, and regarding Ambien, which became critical.
Can you tell the jury what was extracted from the muscle tissue of Carrie Baker?
We found 3 different drugs, phentermine, diphenhydramine, and zolpidem. And then zolpidem, and its common name is Ambien.
We never were able to determine where he got the Ambien from.
But we were able to determine that he was going to these websites and that he had gotten as far as putting Ambien in a cart.
Defense attorney Guy Gray pointed out that there was no evidence that Matt actually ordered Ambien from that website.
They went through the process of looking at it, but it was aborted and no purchase of Ambien was made. Correct?
Yes.
No further question.
You state your name for the jury, please.
Joanne Bristol.
Joanne Bristol, Carrie's grief counselor, testified about those comments she says Carrie made about Matt.
She said, I'm thinking my husband is going to kill me, but she recanted the statement.
How do you analyze that, or what do you think about that?
I felt at that time that I knew this client very well. She had never misled me, and so when she said, oh, but I know he wouldn't do that, I believed her.
You didn't advise her to leave the house or move out. You didn't call law enforcement. You took that recanting as an accurate or true reflection of what was going on.
From her, yes.
Day 4 of the trial, and it's the prosecution's star witness who everyone is waiting to hear.
This case was one of those cases where all of the attention is focused on one witness, and that one witness was Vanessa Bowles.
State calls Vanessa bulls.
I remember looking at Matt more than looking at the jury. I wanted to see his response, and I think he was stunned.
Raise your right hand.
After years of denying their affair, Vanessa now admits that Matt began to pursue her even before Carrie died.
Please have a seat.
He started asking me things about my divorce and started telling me, whoever finds you is going to be a lucky man.
Did he say anything else unusual to you?
He came by and was kind of smiling. He said, oh, don't date other guys, just date your pastor, and kind of smiled.
Did he say anything else after that?
He said, will you really date your pastor? I've had a vasectomy, so I can't get you pregnant. Also, I don't have any STDs. And he also started telling me that because of Carrie's depression, as he stated, their sex life had been lacking.
And at the time, were you buying into what he was telling you about Carrie?
I was buying into everything. He was a complete, and still is, a manipulative liar who took me, my vulnerable state, and made me believe everything he said.
What happened then in early March as you and Matt started to spend Fridays at the Baker home?
And he asked if he could hold my hands to pray, and he did. Then afterwards, he started to kiss me. Then he just took my hand and led me to the bedroom.
Feeling guilty about being with her pastor, Vanessa says that Matt tried to reassure her.
I was extremely remorseful. I couldn't believe what just happened. He started saying, it's okay, don't feel bad, just ask God to forgive you. And he said, in reality, he said, I don't think God believes that anyone can just be with one person the rest of their lives.
After Carrie's death, Vanessa says Matt wanted more, perhaps even making her the next Mrs. Baker.
At some point, did you and Matt take the girls and go to Kay Jewelers in the mall?
We did. He stated that the girls wanted to go look at wedding rings for me.
Are you telling the jury that he was prepared at this point, a week or two after Carrie's death, to trade in Carrie's wedding set to get you a ring that you wanted?
Correct.
Matt had denied this in interviews, but a salesperson from the jewelry store corroborated Vanessa's account.
She tried on about 4 or 5 rings, asked his opinion. He just would tell her it didn't matter what he liked, it was what she liked, because she would be the one wearing it.
Vanessa then drops a bomb when she says not only did Matt want out of his marriage,
he said that if we ever fell so much in love that he would find a way out of it.
She also knows what happened to Carrie Baker.
I told him, I'm gonna tell what you did. And he said, you better not do that.
Vanessa testifies that Matt was openly plotting Carrie's death.
At what point did he start talking about planning her murder?
It was sometime mid-March. He said that, you know, she took sleeping pills every night, so maybe he could make it look like she overdosed on sleeping pills.
Vanessa Bowles talked about how Matt had ruminated about all the different ways he might kill Carrie.
He talked about making it look like she had hung herself. He talked about tampering with the brakes of her car, maybe doing a drive-by shooting.
What I saw from Vanessa's testimony was a man who was much more evil than even I believed he was.
She testified that Matt planned to kill Carrie with a tainted milkshake and then craft a suicide note.
1 to 2 weeks before Carrie's death, did he tell you that he had in fact tried that?
He did. He sent an email and said she took a sip of it and said that it tasted like lead. And so then he said he took a drink and said, oh, well, the ice cream must have been bad. He mentioned that he would leave a note, and he said that he would type it. And I said, that's never going to work. You're going to be caught. And he said, oh, no, she types everything.
Did he say something else about what he believed other people thought about her mental state?
Oh, he said that no one would question it because of how depressed she was.
Vanessa stuns the courtroom when she says Matt Baker told her how he killed his wife.
He had gotten big horse pills. He said he emptied out all the contents
and put crushed Ambien in them. He said he handcuffed her to the bed, started kissing her and touching her all over until she fell asleep. Then he said he got the pillow and put it over her face.
What did he say happened next?
He said that he thought she was dead, and he just said she just took one big ass for air, and he said, oh, and then put the pillow back on her face, except he did this with his hand to be sure that he suffocated her.
He didn't even feel enough remorse when he realized that she was still alive to rethink it. He just wanted to finish the job.
He said he typed out the suicide note, printed it, got her hand, and he said that he ran her hand all around the sides of it and put her fingerprints all over it. He said that he set everything up, locked the door, and left.
What was the reaction in the courtroom to Vanessa's testimony that not only did Matt Baker kill his wife, but that he had been planning it?
He had planning it, and the things that he did, people couldn't believe it. I think the more surprising thing was that they couldn't believe that she's up there telling all this.
So you knew that Friday, April 7th of 2006 was the day that he was going to try it again?
I knew he was going to try it then, yes.
All right. And you didn't report that to anybody?
No.
Vanessa says she had second thoughts about Matt and the cover-up of Carrie's murder.
Not only had I known about this and not done the right thing, in truth, who would believe me? He was a preacher. And so I felt like I was stuck.
She then chose to break it off with him.
I decided that I didn't care what he told me anymore, that we didn't worship the same God. So I called him. I told him, I never want to see you again. And he became irate. He started saying, came into my life. And this testimony is going to put him where he needs to be.
It's now up to the jury to determine where Matt needs to be.
Folks, we can't protect her from harm. The only thing now we can do is give her justice. Then turned and pointed to Matt and said to convict this murdering minister and find him guilty for one reason only, because he is guilty.
The indictment says there's got to be facts of drugs and a pillow. And the only way you can get those facts is by believing Vanessa Bulls. And she is just not credible.
I think a lot of people struggled with Vanessa.
I mean, she had done horrible things, but I think it really helped her credibility when she was on the stand because she didn't try to fade her own culpability.
I think Vanessa was absolutely the key to the case.
We've reached a unanimous verdict, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Matt D. Baker, guilty of the offense of murder as alleged in the indictment.
For the sentencing phase of the trial, the jury gets to hear additional testimony.
They came back and had witnesses from his past come and talk to us about things that he had done.
One by one, women testify about sexual misconduct they say they endured from Matt Baker.
He came up from behind me, put his hand on my breast. I pushed him away, told him no. He tried to kiss me, told him no.
I remember having to use all my strength to try to keep him off of me and from taking my clothes off.
Including Laura Wilson, the student trainer who worked alongside him in college.
He took his hand and began running it up my thigh and between my legs.
I think as a jury, to see, what all he's been doing since he was a teenager made us 100% feel like that we had definitely made the right decision.
The jury sentenced Matt Baker to 65 years in prison. And finally, Carrie's mother has a chance to confront him directly.
I'm talking to you, Matt, today, okay? You haven't looked at me in almost 4 years. Can you look at me today?
So what does Matt have to say from behind bars?
Yeah, we asked him to give him a call.
sentence of the court that you be confined for a term of 65 years. There's some victim impact statements given by the family of the victim. You may proceed.
I'm talking to you, Matt, today, okay? You haven't looked at me in almost 4 years. Can you look at me today? For a little while, okay?
But she did talk to him directly, and he looked down.
Matt, she loved you. And then you took her from us, Matt. You discarded her like she was yesterday's trash. You murdered the mother of your children. But love trumps evil. I don't know why, but I felt pity for him.
I truly believe in my innocence. I believe the jury made a mistake in this.
After his sentencing, 2020 speaks with Matt Baker again, this time in prison, where he finally admits to his affair with Vanessa, but continues to maintain his innocence.
I'm coming clean on the lying about Vanessa. I made a mistake. I'm human. I made a mistake there. I should not have ever got involved in that. I was having a tough spot in my marriage, and I took the chicken way out. But I would never have hurt my wife. I never did. I never laid a hand on her, ever.
Their mother was erased from them. They need to know she loved them. And she didn't leave them by choice.
A year and a half after Matt's conviction, Linda was given custody of her granddaughters.
It was a long journey for the girls to understand what had actually happened to their mother.
Carrie Baker didn't kill herself. She was murdered. He was a Baptist pastor, preacher. He was a predator.
I think he's a dark angel.
That ye may fear the Lord your God.
You get to be the hero during.
Tonight, David Muir reporting.
We take you inside 2 cases. A mother just 19 years old.
She was trying to protect her daughter. She fought like hell.
Another case into a beloved teacher, her whole future ahead of her.
Mysterious cold cases.
It gives you chills even today.
Yes.
What links both of those cases is the cutting-edge forensic technology inside this lab.
It sounded like science fiction at the time.
Can they be solved?
You'll see it unfold right here as they unmask the killer in both cases.
Catching the killers on tonight's 2020, The Codebreakers.
Tonight we take you inside 2 cases. 2 young women, both brutally murdered in their homes. The killers in each case evading police for decades. In one case, a mother just 19 years old, she was engaged to be married.
Her fiance, who was about to marry her, adopt her daughter, he gets home and he immediately notices something is wrong. There's blood smeared on the stairway.
The killer had attacked her in the bedroom.
There was handprints of her trying to hold the door closed, and she just wasn't strong enough.
Another case in Texas, a beloved teacher, her whole future ahead of her.
Drove in to Memphis.
She just started a new school. She was loving teaching her students. She was in a very good place.
911, what's your emergency? What's going on?
Oh, she was murdered. We just
What did your daughter do?
She's been murdered!
You remember walking in and what you discovered?
I remember walking into the bathroom and seeing her body on the floor.
She'd been handcuffed.
That's correct. She had been handcuffed with her hands behind her back.
There were about 36 different wounds on her body. She put up a fight.
Of course, the question, who would want to kill each of these women? The mystery behind their murders would torment their loved ones for decades.
They've got handprints, they've got footprints. Why are they not finding this person?
It was like the talk of the town forever.
And for the detectives who were working these cases, frustrating dead ends.
There was also a suspicion, could it have been a member of law enforcement?
Right, there was no forced entry, so our speculation was that it was somebody that she knew or somebody that presented a position of authority that could have garnered that trust to get inside the apartment.
All of these questions lasted for years and years.
Yes.
Yes. Both of these brutal murders were cold cases for decades. And what links both of those cases all of these years later is the cutting-edge forensic technology inside this lab. Tonight, you'll see it unfold right here as they unmask the killer in both cases.
It's the first week of December 1988. 19-year-old Kathy Swartz is home with her 9-month-old daughter. In Kathy's living room, a tree decorated and ready for the first Christmas for her little baby.
She was living with Mike Warner. They were, setting up their life, although he wasn't the father of the child. They were a couple and they were trying to make their way.
He definitely came in and kind of was her knight in shining armor. They were a happy little family.
Mike got up around 5:30 in the morning for his job.
He gets home at 3:30 and he immediately notices something is wrong.
Things were in disarray, blood up the banister, and then in the bedroom was Kathy, very bloody, unclothed mostly.
He would later describe it as like the walls were painted with blood.
Mike is so distressed, he immediately runs to a neighboring apartment because he can't bring himself to call the police. Mike does go back into the apartment to find her daughter.
Kathy's baby, who's 9 months old, dressed in pants, a shirt. She has one sock on. Her diaper looks like it's been recently changed. She was standing up in the crib when Mike walked in.
This is that baby left standing alone in that crib all those years ago. She's now 36 years old.
How was your mother described to you?
Beautiful, happy-go-lucky. She did love like AC/DC, Metallica. She was like a little rock and roll girl. And everybody tells me that I was like her whole world.
So you were 16 years old when you read the police report.
Mm-hmm. It was awful for somebody to do what they did to her, knowing I was in the crib right next door. I just couldn't believe that somebody could do that.
So detectives had questioned at the time whether or not this suspect had changed the diaper.
Yeah. When the police got there on scene, I was dry. I didn't have a dirty diaper on, and it was some hours I was alone.
So one of the first things that investigators notice is that there doesn't seem to be any sign of forced entry, which again suggests that she knew the person who came in and killed her.
She was very good about locking her doors. I would call her and I would say, hey, I'm going to come over. And I would go to her door. It was locked. And I would knock. And she would, who is it? And then she would let me in.
We theorized that the assault started in the kitchen because in the kitchen there was passive blood drops on the floor. And then the smearing goes up the stairway to the upstairs bedroom.
There are defensive wounds found on her hands. Her throat has been cut in multiple places. She's been strangled.
She fought like hell. She was trying to protect her daughter, and she did.
And the idea that this happened and you were just a couple of feet away.
Yeah. Makes me mad that I wasn't old enough to help her. I'm 100% convinced she was trying to save her baby. Because I feel like she would have just ran outside and yelled, but I was upstairs. And she wasn't going to leave that apartment without me.
In the bedroom where Kathy was found is a phone on the bed. The phone cord was cut, but on the phone there was Kathy's fingerprints, and then there was also an unknown fingerprint in blood. In '88, obviously, DNA was in its infancy.
The fingerprint on the phone, how significant?
Very significant, because they were an actual blood, and it was not my mom's.
There is a bloody footprint in the bathroom. It looks like the suspect took a shower after the murder to try to maybe wipe the blood off, clean up. But in the process of doing so, he left behind a left footprint, size 9, in blood.
And then the person left without being seen and without being discovered.
It was very unsettling that something like that could happen. It just didn't make any sense. None of it made any sense.
But when crime scene investigators passed through that gruesome scene again, this time with a new forensic light source, they find a new clue, and one that was imperceptible to the naked eye.
It was like a great big neon clue. It's like, holy smokes.
South Lanes is a bowling alley in Three Rivers, Michigan. It's the social epicenter of this small town where Kathy Swartz's father ran the pro shop. After her brutal murder back in 1988, it also became a place that connected Kathy's daughter, Courtney, to her mother.
I grew up in the bowling alley. I spent a lot of time there. I was raised by my grandparents. They tried to fill the void as much as they could.
What were you told about your mother's absence when you were a little girl?
About first grade, they had told me that a bad man had hurt my mom and she was up in heaven. And when it would thunderstorm, they would tell me that that was my mom up in heaven bowling a strike. So it was pretty cool watching the thunderstorms as I was little, because I'm like, oh, she must be bowling pretty good today.
Your mother's best friend, Jennifer, has told you a lot about your mom.
Yes, she has.
Kathy and I were very good friends. I've known her since grade school, so we've been friends a long time. Kathy was like somebody you could count on. She was a good listener, always there for you, just a, good person.
Childhood friends Kathy and Jennifer both found themselves pregnant as teenagers and formed an unbreakable bond. They would talk on the phone several times a day until December 2nd, when Jennifer couldn't get a hold of her best friend.
A police officer came to my apartment and he asked me to go to the station. I remember him asking me questions, do you know anybody that would want to hurt Kathy? Along those lines. And I finally just was like, what's going on? Is Kathy okay? And he told me, and I don't even remember. I know that the first thing out of my mouth was, is Courtney okay? Where is Courtney?
I do remember pictures of our first Christmas tree, and she had presents under there for me, but she never got to give them to me.
We can see it's the pain you still carry with you. They were a young family just starting out. Kathy and Mike Warner had only been engaged about 3 weeks before her brutal death. And since he was the one who found her body, of course, police would have a lot of questions for him.
When the police initially interviewed him, he had this kind of flat affect to his voice. He didn't seem to be all that upset that she was dead. He didn't get emotional, and that seemed very suspicious to police.
I can't imagine, walking into that scene and what that does to somebody.
There was polygraph examinations that were done with, we were able to verify that he was at work in Sturgis all day long, and there was no way he could have came back to Three Rivers to do it.
I had no doubt in my mind that he didn't have anything to do with this. You know, and I knew it in my heart. No, he loved her. She and Courtney were his world.
I go by Judge Jeffrey Middleton now, but at the time of this, I was Chief Assistant Prosecuting Attorney. We would have maybe one homicide a year, not a young woman killed alone in her apartment during broad daylight. At that point, they were leaving no stone unturned.
So the police department actually rented the apartment for a month after the crime, just so that we could return and continue to look for clues and process. This is one of the first cases where they deployed alternative light sources.
They went into the crime scene with a black light.
On the refrigerator, they noticed 2 pieces of writing. Metallica was written on the refrigerator and Harley was here. These were inexplicable writings that apparently had been erased.
And we found that someone had written on her body, probably in magic marker on the inside of her thigh, and said, "I was here," with an arrow pointing up toward her groin. That was not visible to the naked eye.
And when detectives speak to Kathy's friends, they hear about an ex-boyfriend named Troy Schultes. It turns out he had a nickname, Harley, which of course got their attention. He was a huge fan of the band Metallica.
In fact, he has a Harley-Davidson decal on his truck. The truck was spotted outside Kathy's apartment that very afternoon of her murder.
Well, that's who I told him to look at and, you know, to question. I know a lot of other people did too. I don't know how to really describe it, but it was not a good they were not good together.
You know, when they further look into him, he doesn't have an alibi for that afternoon. So he immediately becomes their #1 suspect. They pick him up for questioning.
Troy Schultes admitted that he was the one that wrote on the refrigerator and on the wall in the apartment, but he never admitted to writing it on her thigh.
And he said, "Well, I didn't do it."
And still with no solid alibi for the night of the murder, police zero in on Troy.
I thought, that's got to be it. Because again, it's got to be somebody she knew, somebody she trusted.
And before long, an arrest in the Kathy Swartz case is announced. But if investigators think they've got their guy, a rude awakening is ahead. Kathy Swartz's daughter, Courtney, the baby left standing in her crib after her mother was brutally murdered, is a mother herself now.
Why are you breaking everything?
And she and her 4 children have stayed in Three Rivers, Michigan, finding comfort in a mother that she lost when she was just a baby.
I do bring the kids out here for like holidays, her birthday, but I also do come out here a lot by myself too.
Back in 1988, police believed they found the perpetrator who brutally murdered Courtney's mother, the man whose nickname was scrawled across her refrigerator, her ex-boyfriend, Troy Schultes.
You know, you look at that and you think, well, that's somebody leaving a calling card behind that they were there.
Without any kind of solid alibi and now under a cloud of suspicion, Troy is arrested, he's charged, and he pleads not guilty.
We had the fingerprints, but we also had a sample of blood that was left behind. We believe because Kathy fought back that whoever the killer was had sustained an injury, and Troy's blood type did not match.
They take fingerprints and footprints from him, and those prints also do not match.
So the charges were dismissed. As it turns out, he was wrongfully arrested and wrongfully charged.
So with the investigation now back at square one, the Three Rivers Police Department, they refocused on matching the fingerprint and the footprint found at the crime scene to the killer.
We had fingerprinted and footprinted so many individuals that had been living in Three Rivers at that time, and none of them were a match.
I thought we would solve this quickly. So the first month passed, we didn't know, 3 months passed, a year passed, and it wasn't solved.
Police even looked at similar crimes that had taken place elsewhere in the area. They took fingerprints, footprints. There was no match.
And the case got colder and colder.
And as DNA technology improves, law enforcement, they continue to work the case.
We fast forward to 2012. We're going over the evidence again. The fingerprint that they had found on the phone was in the suspect's blood, and it was still in viable condition to obtain a DNA profile from that. And we've entered it into CODIS. We think that's going to give us a hit. And of course, it doesn't.
As the years continue to pass, the mystery and the collateral damage for this whole community only grew. The town was haunted by this. Did you feel the eyes of the town on you as you were growing up?
Yes. And I was the baby, so like everybody wanted to take care of the baby, and you know, like it's still that way.
When you don't have answers, you just have questions all the time. But it definitely changed me. It really changed me. I slept with a machete under my mattress for years.
So every December 2nd represents another year without justice for Courtney and her grandparents.
Today, the family is together remembering Kathy on the anniversary of her death.
It's hard. Real hard.
I felt a certain point that I wasn't sure that they would ever find out.
Probably right there, before she died.
It's been 25 years, but remembering hasn't gotten any easier for David Swartz.
I think, yeah, probably the worst thing for me is the why. Why? Why did it have to happen like something like that?
When you look at these kinds of cases around the country, there is generally an investigator or a detective who never gives up.
Yes.
And in this case, it was Jeffrey Middleton.
Yes. He is a great guy.
What was it, do you think, that kept him going on this case for so long?
He was young, just starting out, and this was really the only cold case in our town.
I spent more time on this case than any other case in my entire career. Sometimes in later years, I would pretend I was on vacation and lock myself in the library and just go through this file. As Courtney got older, she would call me sometimes and ask if I knew anything, and I never had any answers.
Police have DNA, fingerprints, and a lot of physical evidence. What they don't have is the person who murdered a 19-year-old Three Rivers woman in 1988.
Here's a lot of the evidence right from property.
Eventually, the Three Rivers Police Department decided to partner with the Michigan State Police. They're convinced that with advances in DNA testing technology, that the Kathy Swartz case can finally be solved.
In Kathy's case, we had DNA that was in CODIS, and we had not gotten a match. We'd exhausted, the fingerprints, and these things which normally get us a hit did not. So I honestly felt like the genetic genealogy was our only chance for solving this case.
And then 3 years ago, Othram, a forensics lab in Texas, now enters the picture. Promising something everyone close to the Kathy Swartz case has waited decades for: answers.
Othram uses DNA technology to help identify victims and perpetrators when law enforcement cannot.
They knew that it was an unknown male contributor to that DNA, but they didn't know who it was.
But all these years later, they said, well, look at this and see if there's something you can do with it. And you were convinced you could?
We were absolutely certain that we could help the Michigan State Police work this case.
They said, we'll get you a lead back. We're not going to guarantee that it's the lead, but we'll get you a lead.
They had over 1,000 suspects. All of a sudden, it's narrowed down to 4.
It was our breakthrough.
In 2022, a package containing DNA, that single bloody fingerprint from Kathy Swartz's pink phone, arrives right here at this building just north of Houston. To the outsider, it looks like just another office building, but what's actually happening inside, in these labs, is now changing how investigations across this country are being solved. This is the headquarters of Othram, a cutting-edge forensics lab that's been mentioned in some of today's most talked about criminal investigations. And 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 has been credited by law enforcement with helping to solve cases that have been unsolvable for years now.
How are
Hi,
you?
it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you?
Yeah,
Thank you. Welcome to 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋.
David and Kristen Middleman are the husband and wife team behind all of this.
Everything you see on our right side will be forensic. Everything you see on the left side will be research. Not every case is suitable for DNA testing right now. Burnt remains, exploded remains, really difficult to make sure. But we hope that one day we live in a world where every case can be suitable for DNA testing.
So you'll hold on to remains for a while and keep trying.
We don't give up ever.
The Middleman's partnership, both in work and in life, actually began over a few blind mice. It's the year 2000. You've just started your PhD at Baylor. You're doing a study on mice.
I was.
And there was another young scientist.
David, yep. So our projects collided, and he actually cured my blind mice. So I thought, wow, if this guy can do that, I think I'll marry him.
David Middleman had worked in biomedical research for years before realizing that
Law enforcement was relying on a limited form of DNA testing. He knew that better technology was available, but said it just wasn't being widely used out there.
It sounded like science fiction at the time. This way you could take decades-old DNA, put it into a genealogy database, build a family tree for your suspect, and then that takes you right to his door. That was pretty amazing.
You start to think, wow, this is really an unused tool here for law enforcement.
Yeah, it felt wrong that there were tools available, and yet there was this piling up backlog of cases that were unsolved.
So at one point, you turn to Kristen and you say, I want to start my own lab.
His words were, let's build a forensic lab of the future. And my words were, what? Who's going to give you evidence?
You thought from the very beginning, who's going to trust us with this?
100%. I said, I don't think people will come. And he said, well, I'm going to build it and we're going to see.
Within a year, he was solving cases almost every week. And the more cold cases they closed, the more publicity they got. And police departments around the world started sending them cases. It's just grown exponentially. In terms of publicly announced solves, 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 is #1 in the world. That includes homicides, rapes, unidentified bodies that they've been able to give names to.
And 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋's reputation now for cracking these cold cases using DNA evidence and forensic genetic genealogy is what actually led Michigan detectives to send that 30-year-old DNA to this lab.
In the Kathy Swartz case, this DNA was how old when it got here from that pink phone?
It was decades old, and in spite of being so old, the DNA was still intact and usable for testing.
So you knew right away this was suitable, and this was just his DNA, the suspect's.
Yeah, the DNA was a single unknown male contributor. It's a small sample, but in spite of that, there's anywhere from hundreds to thousands of cells worth of DNA.
So if you touch David's hand, how much DNA, how many cells have you left there?
Hundreds of cells.
Hundreds of cells on his hand, and sometimes you're dealing with 10, 15.
Even less.
From years ago.
Yeah.
And still able to solve the case.
It's a very, very sensitive technology.
In this Kathy Swartz case, you've chemically labeled all the different parts of the DNA in this room right here, and what do you do with it from there?
It is now ready to actually be read. This particular DNA sequencer is one of the most powerful sequencers
This
on
here
Earth.
with the green?
Yes.
Give me a comparison to what authorities used to have to deal with. What would the DNA sequence reveal versus what you can reveal with the DNA sequencing from this machine now?
Sure. So for the last 30 years, people have used a different kind of DNA testing technology that can measure 20 data points in the DNA. This machine actually can read out the entire sequence. So whereas you might get 20 data points in the earlier versions of this technology, this machine could give you anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million data points.
100,000 to 1 million?
100,000 to 1 million data points.
So now that you have this sequencing that they just didn't have access to years ago, in this particular case, for example, what do you then do with that?
So with the data file that comes out that might have 100,000 to 1 million DNA markers, you can do a lot more, including genetic genealogy and that search for distant relatives.
You're taking what in many cases is a very old DNA sample from these cold cases. You're expanding the DNA sequence, but you're also able to take that information now and put it up against vast public data now, because families and relatives and third cousins and fourth cousins have put all of this information out there, and it would seem that this might unlock cold cases everywhere.
Correct.
At that point, 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋's in-house genealogy team takes over to build a family tree for the suspected killer of Kathy Swartz.
These types of crimes going unsolved have a ripple effect across society, not just the victim and the family not having answers, but the law enforcement that worked the case for decades, consumed by a case they can't solve.
Finding those investigators and then gaining their trust is what 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 says has been critical to their success in helping to crack these cases. In those early years, you have no background in law enforcement. Are you essentially making cold calls to police stations?
I spent my time almost exclusively talking to law enforcement.
You live in Texas, and you know if you want to land a case in Texas, you got to get to the Texas Rangers. But how did you convince them that we've got a tool here?
Well, the one that I've done the most work with is Ranger Brandon Bess.
Brandon Bess is almost out of central casting for a Texas Ranger. He's this imposing man with his white hat. When David Middleman founded 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋, nobody had heard of them. And when Bess visited in 2019, he was really kind of taken aback.
David walks in this room, and it's to speak to David's confidence in that he's wearing a t-shirt that's about 2 sizes too small. He's wearing jeans that have holes in them. It looks like he hadn't slept in 14 days. His hair standing up. I have instant respect for him because I can tell this is a guy that doesn't give up.
Bess came away impressed. He heard about the opportunity to solve a cold case, and he thought, let's team up.
And he had one case in mind. They told me it was the most heinous thing that had ever happened that was unsolved in Beaumont.
That other case, that young school teacher, 31-year-old Catherine Edwards.
911, what's your emergency? Get me the police, please.
What was unique about this case?
The victim was a school teacher, well liked by everyone. And there was no sign of forced entry. So it's a very odd situation. It didn't add up.
This is a crime of violence, a crime of passion, a crime of control.
It gives you chills even today.
Even today, yes, even today.
Either it was someone that she knew or someone that presented themselves as an officer. It was almost like whispered in the hallways, it could be one of our own.
So on January 14th, 1995, the Beaumont Police Department gets a 911 call from a man at a townhouse in West Beaumont.
Oh, Jesus! 911, what's your emergency? Get me the police, please.
He had found his daughter in the second floor bathroom, slumped over the tub.
Okay, ma'am, what's going on there? Our daughter has been murdered. Okay, what happened, ma'am? We came over here and found her. She's handcuffed. She's been tortured. Please, okay, we're sending someone. Don't hang up, all right? Okay, is there anyone else in the house? My husband is here with me. Okay. We found her.
That woman was Catherine Edwards, and she's a teacher at a local elementary school.
She was supposed to have plans with her sister and family for lunch. When she didn't respond by phone call, they went by her house and found that her car was still there. Got inside the house with a key.
Her father said he grabbed her and pulled her over and rolled her over to look and see if there's anything he could do. He was crying hysterically.
Get the police and an ambulance.
To listen to the emotion in those calls, you know, just gut-wrenching. In my 30-plus years, I'd never heard anything like it.
Dad covers her with a towel. Police show up. There's one officer by the name of Carmen Brown. She shows up first, and she secures the crime scene.
And that officer, Carmen Brown Apples, has the memory of her entering Catherine Edwards' townhouse, has played over and over again in her mind for decades.
You remember walking in and what you discovered?
I remember walking in and going up the stairs, looking first into the bedroom that was very much in disarray.
What did you find as far as the bedroom and the bathroom?
Bedroom, there was looked like there had been some type of tussle in there. Things had been knocked around. Sheets were partially torn off. A portion of the bedpost had come off. and then walking into the bathroom and seeing her body on the floor.
She'd been handcuffed.
That's correct. She had been handcuffed with her hands behind her back.
When her mother said her name,
Yes,
you thought, I know her.
I know her. I went to college with her. We were in sororities together. She was so full of life and so friendly and so nice. That just always stuck with me. To come to the scene and then suddenly realize it was Mary Catherine, it just knocked me for a minute.
It gives you chills even today.
Even today, yes, even today.
She is not your typical victim by any stretch of the circumstance. It was an extremely unusual case.
Catherine and her twin sister Allison grew up in Beaumont. They're part of a close-knit Presbyterian family. They both attended Forest Park High School and then Lamar University, which is in Beaumont. And they both became school teachers at the Beaumont Independent School District. Catherine and her sister were extremely close.
When you talk about Mary Catherine and talk about Allison and look at them, I mean, they are identical twins. You can't tell them apart. They both had students come up to each other in the grocery store thinking they were the other twin.
Investigators learned that her sister Allison was likely the last person, aside from the killer obviously, to see Catherine alive. Allison would tell detectives that her twin sister arrived at her house after work to pick up her beloved beagle, Maggie.
She came by, visited with her sister, went home. From what we can tell, she had had a glass of wine and just kind of was relaxing and about to go to bed. And I think the last time she was heard from was about 8 o'clock that night.
One of the neighbors told police that he heard someone clomping down the stairs overnight on the night of January 13th.
There was a 12-year-old boy and his dad that were staying with some friends that were right next door to Catherine Edwards' townhome. He heard somebody run down the stairs and then a door slam, and a little while later a car sped off with loud music. There were some other neighbors that heard some loud banging.
It lasted for 60 to 90 seconds. And they said they never heard a scream, so they just figured that something else might have been going on. They had no idea that there was a murder taking place next door.
Crime scene investigators found that there was no sign of forced entry, which is significant because it either meant that Catherine had kept her door unlocked or had potentially recognized her killer and let him in.
Of course, in these cases, it's standard procedure for investigators to look at those closest to the victim. And really, from the beginning, her ex-boyfriend is seen as a prime suspect. But critical evidence from the scene actually points in a different direction.
The crime scene investigators at the time also collected a lot of evidence from the house, and one of those pieces of evidence being the bedspread.
Investigators found semen on Catherine's bedspread and from the rape kit.
We've got some DNA here. Now we just got to match it.
The DNA actually doesn't match her ex-boyfriend, and he's now cleared in the case. And there are no matches to the DNA in CODIS, which is the National Criminal Offender DNA database, either.
Police were really stumped. They tried every avenue they could think of, but every avenue hit a dead end. One of their initial theories was that the killer had some sort of law enforcement background. The handcuffs were Smith & Wesson. That's a popular brand with law enforcement.
They were trying everything they could think of. They really did. They went and tracked down sales of handcuffs in this area, receipts.
All members of the Beaumont Police Department were tested. There were no matches.
It kind of sent a panic through the community. You know, if this can happen to somebody in a really quiet part of town, could it happen to them, kind of thing.
It went from a rumor to just spreading like wildfire throughout the community. Everybody wanted to know, was this a one-time deal? Was this a serial killer?
The case would go cold for decades, and obviously it's just one of hundreds of thousands of unsolved murders in this country. But then in 2020, two investigators, Ranger Brandon Best and Beaumont Police Detective Aaron Llewellyn, decided to take a fresh look at the case. At the time, Bess had just been connected with this new lab called 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋, and Detective Llewellyn knows that there's DNA that's actually available to test in this case.
But when Brandon presented 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 to me right then and there, I'm like, let's make this happen.
We believed that was going to be our only hope.
The last hope for answers, the DNA evidence from the murder of that elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards, is now headed to 𝐅𝐔𝐋𝐋 for testing.
Bloody fingerprint left on a phone and a footprint.
And in the case of that Michigan mom, Kathy Swartz, what new lead is about to be uncovered right behind this glass? You'll see right here tonight how both cases are about to crack wide open, sending investigators across this country to find the killers they've been searching for decades.
The person that did it was in the 10,000 pages of police reports.
You have all these puzzle pieces, but if they don't all fit together, you don't see the picture.
I want you to think about the next words that come out of your mouth. I want you to think very hard about that.
We felt like we had a home run right then and there.
And they said he was like a godly man down there.
I was like, wow, we're gonna get some answers.
Tonight, two horrible murders.
I just felt awful.
And now a survivor who lived to tell.
I was just like, I can't tell him. I'll never tell anybody what happened.
What did your daughter do? She's been murdered!
It gives you chills even today.
Even today.
That someone had written on her body, on the inside of her thigh, and said, I was here.
But only one way to solve them after years of going cold.
I honestly felt the genetic genealogy was our only chance.
All these years later, they said, well, look at this and see if there's something you can do with it.
It's his fingerprint, it's his bare bloody footprint, and it's his DNA.
It turned into a massacre.
The floor goes out from under you. I'm like, no way, this cannot be happening.
He said, your sister's dead, your sister's dead.
There's two people that know that story. You're one of them, and she's the other. And she can't talk.
Without the DNA, the story doesn't matter.
That the two of them were able to go back and look at that evidence.
Yes.
From when you were a 9-month-old baby.
Yes.
In the crib, just a few feet from your mother.
And there was a moment like, oh, this is our guy.
For some families, you are the last hope. Who was the killer? For years, you were haunted by that question.
Yeah, growing up, most kids, you know, they look at people and they don't have to think, is that the man that killed your mom? And everybody that I met, that's the first thing that would pop into my mind.
This is the original file from 1988.
When you have your files in a cold case, the killer's name, it's in there somewhere.
The profilers really believed that whoever it was would return to her gravesite. And for years, that was part of our initial a rookie training program was, this is Kathy Swartz's gravesite. If you see somebody at that gravesite, you need to stop and identify them because they could be a prime suspect in the murder.
More than 1,000 miles from Three Rivers, Michigan, we're right here on the Neches River in Beaumont, Texas, where another family, heartbroken for decades, the community wondering, do they too have a killer in their midst? After the brutal murder of a young elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards. She was just 31. And detectives here wondering, would they ever have the tools to solve this case?
You know that every day that you don't solve that crime is a day that you're not going to be able to bring that perpetrator justice.
This certainly is a scene that has always stayed with me.
And you retired, and when you left the force, at that point it had not been solved.
That's correct. Every now and then, someone would dust off the case file and start looking at it with fresh eyes, and I always thought, maybe this time something will spark and we'll catch whoever did this.
It would turn out that spark, the one that would finally reignite the whole investigation into the murder of Catherine Edwards, was actually coming, thanks to a major leap forward in forensic technology.
In 2020, a courier drops off a package at Othram's office. And inside are a sample of the bedspread from Catherine Edwards' apartment, a vial of DNA taken from the posthumous rape kit. Othram technicians take a look and they build a genetic profile of their suspect.
Investigators now have a human profile that can actually be searched in public databases to try to find possible family members across this country. And to do that, you need a genealogist to connect the dots. And Beaumont detective Aaron Llewellyn didn't have to look far for help.
Aaron Llewellyn knew one who would work the case for free, and that was his wife, Tina.
I can remember sitting at the table one night and getting really frustrated trying to map all this out. And she's like, let me help.
Actually, just move over. I got this.
No, Tina doesn't ask.
Tina Llewellyn was a detective in the Beaumont Auto Crimes Division. And she had an amateur interest in genealogy.
I can remember dozing off one night and I wake up and she's got lines going here and lines going there.
So now, along with the Middlemans from the Othram Forensic Laboratory, you've got two husband-wife teams actually working the case of this elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards. And soon another critical partner joins the hunt.
When Tina Llewellyn is looking through the matches to their suspect, these are distant relatives of the suspected killer, she notices that a lot of them are clustered in Cajun country in Louisiana. And the same contact name keeps popping up. This woman named Shara LaPointe.
I was sitting at my desk one day and I got a phone call. He said, I'm Detective Aaron Llewellyn from the Beaumont Police Department. Your email is attached to one of the matches that we have to the person of interest.
Shara LaPointe just happens to be a professional genealogist with experience working in criminal cases. She also has Cajun ancestry.
Cajuns, back to the late 1700s, we were a small population who came to South Louisiana. And so they married their neighbors, who was usually their relatives also.
Cajun ancestry is notoriously complicated and complex to perform genealogical work on.
I knew it was going to be a challenge from the start. We spent hours and hours and hours on the phone talking to each other.
Probably no less than 5 times a day.
A friendship quickly forms as the two women spend the next 3 months building a family tree around the suspect's DNA, using every record they can find, a combination of internet research and good old-fashioned library archives.
A lot of newspaper articles.
A lot of newspaper
Obituaries.
Articles. Census records. I remember I got to a couple in Beaumont, and there are yearbook records of 2 sons that couple had.
And the first one we came across, he was the right age. He went to the same high school with our victim.
Aaron goes and does research and finds out that he had a criminal history from here, and it was a prior sexual assault that had occurred in 1981.
And there was a moment like, oh, this is our guy.
And the details of that assault set off alarm bells for detectives.
There were a lot of similarities in that case that mimicked Catherine Edwards' case. The victim's hands were bound behind her back. She was sexually assaulted.
We felt like we had a home run right then and there.
Suddenly they realized that this suspect had a second victim. The difference this time, the victim survived and lived to tell.
He started telling me that he was training to become a policeman and stuff. He was like, I'll just take you home. I don't know why, but I believed him.
So all these years later, investigators in the Catherine Edwards case, the school teacher who was brutally murdered, now think there might have been a second victim of the suspect who is still alive, Paula Bledsoe Ramsey.
I was 19. There was a new country western bar that opened up. I really didn't want to go that night, but I'd promised the other girls that I would go. I decided I wanted to leave. I was I was done. I wanted to get home. The parking lot was mud, and my car was stuck in the mud. I just thought, I'll just walk to the gas station and call my mom.
She says a man offered her a ride home.
He said his brother's name, and then he said where he went to high school. And then he said, do you go to Forest Park? And I was like, yeah. And then he started telling me that he was training to become a policeman and stuff. And so then he was like, I'll just take you home. And I don't know why, but, you know, I believed him.
She realized very quickly that that man wasn't driving in the direction of her home.
He started off being very nice. Next thing I know, we're at this field, and then his whole demeanor changed.
He drove her to a nearby park, threatened her with a knife, tied her hands behind her back, and raped her in the backseat of the car. Then he dropped her off at her house.
I just felt awful and shameful, and I was just like, I can't tell I'll never tell anybody what happened. I don't know, I was kind of like, I don't know if anybody would believe me, you know, is it my fault, was it my fault?
Paula said she summoned the courage about a week later to tell police what had happened. They would soon tell her that they identified the man who attacked her, and it turns out he wasn't a police trainee. He was a 21-year-old salesman in Beaumont.
He said, yeah, I did it. I just got carried away.
She said that the prosecutor talked to her, said, you know, this is his first offense. We want to plead him to an aggravated assault. She didn't understand what that meant other than he was pleading to a felony and for assaulting her. And so she agreed to the plea bargain agreement.
I think today they take it more serious than they did back then. I wanted him to be punished. I think I was just pushing everything down and just trying to focus on with life.
Hey, good. How are you?
Ranger Bess?
Brandon. Yes,
Good
sir.
to see you.
Pleasure.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So when you looked at what had happened in 1981 with this sexual assault, you thought there's a lot here that seems awfully close to the Catherine Edwards case.
I did.
It turns out that the man who pleaded guilty in that 1981 case is a man by the name of Clayton Foreman. Now, this is the same name that turned up in Tina and Cher's genealogy hunt. He was one of two brothers from the family tree that they actually put together. And you might be wondering why his name never surfaced before. You have to remember that this case was back in 1981, and DNA collection wasn't even a thing by law enforcement. It was still a decade away.
This is how he eluded detectives at the time. He essentially got away scot-free.
As investigators get closer to solving this mystery, they begin to learn more about Clayton Foreman's background. And in a twist in this case, one of the things they learned is that Clayton Foreman, the suspect, actually went to the same school as Catherine Edwards, the woman who was killed. In fact, they probably walked down the same hallways here at school. And there was something else. Catherine Edwards was actually friends with the suspect's first wife. In fact, Catherine Edwards was a bridesmaid at their wedding.
Investigators figure out that Clayton Foreman is working in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, and he's working as a rideshare driver.
We've got a suspect. Now we've got to make sure that's the right guy. So they go, they pull the trash can, they get some plastic silverware from takeout and some other things from the trash can.
So you tell the FBI what you found, and they gather some trash at the suspect's home in Ohio.
Correct. They shipped that down here to me, and then once I went through it, I coordinated with our lab here in Texas to see what items would be best to test, and they compared it to the evidence that we had.
And we got the call. This is our guy. This is a match. Of course, we're chomping at the bit to get there to Ohio.
So he'd been told that one of his Uber customers had something taken and that he needed to come down. Maybe you guys could ask him a few questions about it. That's not what you were going to ask him.
No, not at all.
What we're here about is we're cold case investigators.
You want that shock and awe factor. You want him to walk in the room, you want him to see a guy with a cowboy hat on, and he knows that this is not someone from Ohio.
We're asking you to visit with us about a crime that we're investigating, okay? You don't have to talk to us at all, okay?
He thought we were there just following up on an old case, like, hey, these guys, they don't have anything. They're just asking me all these questions in case they do one day. I don't think he had any idea that we had his DNA.
So the crime that we're looking at is the murder of Mary Catherine Edwards. She was murdered in 1995. She and her sister, Allison, were actually in your wedding.
Right.
And
1982.
Were you aware of the crime even?
No.
You didn't know that Catherine Edwards was murdered?
No, sir.
Did not. Wedding night only would have been the only time you've seen her?
Probably so.
Okay. Never, obviously, had sex with her?
No.
Never?
Never.
Did you ever go in her house at all? Any house that she ever lived in?
No.
Clay, I'm going to level with you. Okay? Right here and now, and I want you to hear me real close.
All right, sir.
What I'm going to tell you right now is your DNA was on Catherine's bed and was inside Catherine.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how I got there, but per se it was there.
There's only one way for it to get there.
Okay.
And that's by you putting it there.
Okay.
There's two people that know that story. You're one of them, and she's the other. And she can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
What I asked you is, now, to be honest with us completely, and tell us, how did that happen?
I'm not going to say anything. So if I need an attorney now,
You probably need one, or you do need one?
I'll need an attorney.
After he makes it outside, that's when we executed the arrest warrant and arrested him.
You showed up with the handcuffs that he used on Catherine Edwards.
We did, and got to put him on him after we got through interviewing him.
Did he know that those were the handcuffs he used?
He was told.
New developments tonight on the murder of a beloved Boma teacher.
So finally, 36 years after Catherine Edwards' murder and arrest, the team can now return to Texas to prepare for trial. And in South Carolina, another team of investigators, they're now chasing a promising lead in their case because of this new technology. The murder of Michigan mom Kathy Swartz, whose daughter has gone so many years without answers. At what point did hope return for you?
I got a phone call from Sam Smallcombe, and he said, we may have the guy that killed your mom.
Gentlemen, how can we help you?
Investigators working the cold case murder of Kathy Swartz, the young Michigan mother who was murdered, her baby right nearby, they had sent off the perpetrator's DNA taken from her pink phone to that lab in Texas, Othram. So after 3 decades with no arrests in this case, Othram actually uses their cutting-edge technology to build a comprehensive DNA sequence of who the perpetrator is.
So now that you have this sequencing that they just didn't have access to years ago, what do you then do with that?
We could use that profile to search a database of people, and in doing this, we can then begin to figure out how these people that are near relatives are arranged on a family tree. And if we can do that, then we can begin to ask where the person that we're looking to identify might fit on the tree.
In going down the family tree, you find that there is actually a family that lives in Three Rivers, Michigan, a mother and father with 4 sons.
Yes. That's correct.
We got the report back, and they believed it was a family that had lived in Three Rivers. The DNA was male, so this narrowed it down to 4 brothers. The youngest brother, Barry, and then there was, the oldest was Sonny Waters, then John Waters, and then Robert Waters. We were very excited because now we have leads to run off from. We were very quickly be able to eliminate Barry because his DNA that was in CODIS.
And they're able to rule him out, so they take him right off the list. Detectives then track down 2 more of the Waters brothers, who both quickly agree to turn over their DNA.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And with that DNA, they're able to eliminate them as well, which just left Robert Waters.
Robert Waters was married, had a couple of children, and had been living in Beaufort, South Carolina for quite some time. He was a local business owner and had a plumbing business.
And from what detectives can tell from looking at his wife's Facebook page, Robert Waters appears to be a happily married family man.
All right.
Hey, how you doing?
Good morning.
Hey, Robert. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
How can we help you?
I'm Sam Smallcombe from Three Rivers PD. This is Todd Peters from Michigan State Police.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Can we talk for just a couple of minutes?
Sure.
Not inconvenience
All right.
too much?
Sure.
He seemed like the guy next door that would mow your lawn for you if you were going to be out of town for a week.
So I'm helping Sam, and we reopened this case from Three Rivers from way back in the day, going back through and getting interviews and just clearing everything down. Okay. So we were wondering if you'd have time to come down to the PD and talk with us down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody comes knocks on your door, investigators from another state, and asks you to come down to the department and talk. You're probably going to ask why. Never asks why, and agrees to drive himself down and meet us there. So we'll just expect you in a couple minutes, and we'll meet you down.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you, sir.
After initially not showing at the police station, detectives call Waters. He's informed that they have a warrant for his prints and his DNA, and later that day he actually comes in.
But what I'm probably going to do is do the 3 and...
We had to just focus on getting the fingerprints and the DNA. Yeah, don't have a seat.
And one of the issues we'd run into is the Beaufort Police Department did not have the fingerprint live scan machine. So we had to use the traditional ink and paper.
Hang on for just a second. I got to take a call real quick here. Yes, sir.
Hey, sorry to bother you. We're struggling with this print here.
Unfortunately, at that police station, they're having trouble actually getting a clean print from Waters.
You want to come get your fingers dirty again? We're going to try to do it on just card stock.
Okay.
So we rolled them a second time, sent those back.
Never gets upset about it, never gets worked up about the time.
We're going to go flat down.
He still just willingly, I guess, hung out with us.
So you've got the detectives now waiting for a definitive answer from the lab in Michigan. So they spend the next 5 hours actually making small talk with Robert Waters.
If you like seafood,
Yep, I do.
you will like that place.
We talked about our families, his family, plumbing, and remodeling houses. You would never guess by looking at that guy that he was concerned about why he was there or the outcome of it. All right.
Okay, I just wanted to tell you, we did submit the print that we took from you earlier. It did match to the one at the crime scene. So at this time, you are under arrest for the murder of Kathy Schwartz. Okay?
Okay.
It really surprised me. He did not really react. I feel like he knew when we showed up that morning that the game was up.
Do you remember when you learned that the prints were a match?
There was just so many emotions and everything going on that I was just overwhelmed and so excited because finally they had him.
So after decades, you have your answer.
Yes.
53-year-old Robert Waters, a former Three Rivers resident, now a plumber, husband, father, and accused killer.
I didn't recognize his name, didn't sound familiar to me at all.
But investigators always believed that Kathy Schwartz must have known her killer in some way. You'll remember there was no forced entry. And they finally discover the connection when they go back to speak to Kathy's one-time fiance, Mike Warner.
Well, let me ask you the obvious question. What about Rob Waters?
He came there one time.
He came there one time.
One time.
Okay. Do you remember, like, was that close to December? That was...
I think so.
He knew Robbie Waters, had visited the apartment about a month before the murder.
We hadn't seen since grade school. Yeah.
Okay, so he just somehow figured out that you guys were living in Riverside and showed up that one time.
Yeah.
I honestly think she knew him then, obviously, because he was friends with Mike, and he was in town and tried to come see my mom, and she wasn't having it.
He's waiting to be extradited to St. Joseph County.
It really was, you know, like, wow, we're going to get some answers. We're going to find some things out.
But before his day in court could actually come, the suspect, Robert Waters, does something that shocks everyone.
No way. This cannot be happening.
A major breakthrough in a cold case murder out of Three Rivers.
And investigators say they have finally arrested a suspect. His name is 53-year-old Robert Waters.
Those too tight?
No.
The plans were already in place. He had waived extradition, so he knew that he was going to be brought back to Michigan.
They go down to South Carolina, and they discover that this man had been living a full life.
Yeah.
Married, children, a job.
A good job. A good life. And they said he was like a godly man down there.
To that you say?
No. They don't know the real man.
But after evading law enforcement for decades, Robert Waters never makes it back to Michigan.
At like 6:30 in the morning, I received a call from an investigator from Beaufort, and she had explained that she had just come from the jail and that Robert Waters had hung himself in his cell.
I'm like, no way. This cannot be happening. Again, like a disbelief, you know, like why, how could this happen?
Yeah, he had some material that they'd given him in the jail, and it was some devotionals, and the parts that he had ripped out talked about forgiveness and asking for forgiveness.
To me, it says that you're guilty. I mean, no one is going to do that in that situation if they're innocent.
You feel robbed that you did not get the opportunity to see him face to face.
Yes. I just wanted him to feel my presence in the room.
What would you have said to him in court?
I don't think I would have said anything. I just think I would have walked in, and my presence is enough words for him.
He would have seen that baby
Yeah.
that he left there in that crib all
And probably my mom, because I look like her, they say.
He's a coward. To take her away from all of us in the manner that he did, and then he got to go live his life. You're not gonna give us any answers. I mean, he's just a coward.
But remember, there are two cases here that have been unlocked by this new technology. And back in Beaumont, Texas, Catherine Edwards' loved ones are determined to see the suspect in that case, Clayton Foreman, the man charged with murdering her, face a jury.
Clayton Foreman goes on trial in March of 2024 in Beaumont. He is charged with capital murder.
Clayton Bernard Foreman, how do you plead to the indictment, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
There were family there, there were friends there, there were former students of Catherine's that were there to see that justice was going to be served.
Prosecutors begin by playing that 911 call Catherine's parents made for the jury.
Police, please. What's going on? I found my daughter murdered.
That 911 tape was very impactful to start the trial off with. That really gets you involved and to know that something horrible happened.
You know, Catherine's parents did not live to see the man accused of killing their daughter arrested. So this is left now to the twin sister, Allison, to tell jurors about her sister.
Are you related to Mary Catherine Edwards?
Yes, she was my twin sister.
Allison is now 60 years old, and she offered really powerful testimony about growing up with Catherine.
She just was always very nurturing and loving to people, and if anyone had a problem, they would come to her, and she would talk to strangers and make friends with people and compliment people, and just was an amazing person.
Allison recalls the afternoon where her sister's body was discovered. Catherine just never showed up to this lunch. So eventually her father, Lum, agreed to go check on her.
And my dad answered the phone, and he was frantic, and he said, your sister's dead, your sister's dead.
And it was just heartbreaking to see. I mean, her twin, identical twin, is what she would have looked like today if she was alive, and there she is up on the stand testifying. And the emotion and the love and the hurt, all of it came out and was so impactful with the jury.
Allison said when Catherine died, she thought her parents died a little bit that day too.
It was horrible. They were never the same. But we decided as a family after that happened that we were gonna not let what happened kill us too, and that we were gonna live to honor her, and that's what we always did after that.
In a heart-crushing moment, Allison shares with the jury how she honored her sister after her death.
4 years later, I had a daughter, and her name is Catherine. Catherine Ann, after my sister. And she never got to know her. My oldest was 9 months old, and she was her godmother, and she never got to know her either.
You can know the case inside out, but until you see somebody testify and see the raw emotion that's going on, that was raw emotion that they relived on the stand.
Excuse me, thank you. Prosecution's next witness is about to detail the surprising connection between Catherine Edwards and Clayton Foreman.
And you got married to a person by the name of Clayton Foreman.
Yes.
What she's about to tell the jury about his reaction to Catherine's death.
It dumbfounded me.
Jurors in the trial of Clayton Foreman, the man accused of killing that school teacher, Catherine Edwards, are now hearing about this investigation that took nearly 30 years, and all of it now culminating with this cutting-edge DNA testing done by that Texas lab, Othram.
So help you God. Please have a seat.
I was very eager to get to the courtroom. I work at Othram. We'll do the testing, and it will result in the building of a DNA profile to generate new leads in the investigation. It's one thing to solve a case, and it's another to be able to defend how that work was done, allow it to be interrogated openly and critiqued. We want to see at least 50% of the markers, and you can see that in actuality we had, it looks like 87%. So that's far in excess of what is necessary to produce a workable profile.
Without the DNA, the story doesn't matter. That's that one puzzle piece that puts it all together.
So prosecutors want the jurors now to hear from the woman who can actually detail the connection between that school teacher, Catherine Edwards, and Clayton Foreman. She was married to him.
My name's Diana Coe.
And remember, Catherine Edwards and her twin sister were actually bridesmaids at the wedding.
Were they friends of yours in high school?
Yes.
She also testified that while she was married to Foreman, she actually discovered something unnerving in his car.
You had found a briefcase in the trunk of the defendant's car, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. What was inside the briefcase?
There was a gun, a set of handcuffs, and some horrible pornographic material.
Okay. Regarding the gun, was there any reason for him to have a gun that you knew of at the time?
No reason. I mean...
Is there any reason that you knew of that he would have a pair of handcuffs in the back of his trunk?
No.
Did you ever talk to him about that?
No. I didn't know what he would say. I didn't know what he would do.
And later, when questioned by the defense, Diana said she never saw the briefcase again. She also recalled an odd conversation that she'd actually had with her ex-husband about Catherine and her twin sister.
He had told me that in high school, he would see them in the hall, and he always thought they were so cute because they were twins, and he felt as though he wanted to make sure he protected them.
After 11 years of marriage, Diana and Foreman divorced, but they continue to stay in touch. And she tells jurors how 2 years later, in 1995, she actually called her ex-husband after finding out that Catherine had been murdered.
Was that very upsetting to you?
Yes.
When you told him, how did he react?
He didn't. It was very shocking to me. It had like no feeling whatsoever, and just basically was like, oh, really? And it dumbfounded me.
Okay. Excuse me, thank you.
And there was one more witness jurors would hear from, Paula Ramsey, Foreman's victim from 1981. It had been decades since Paula had even heard the name of the man who assaulted her.
It was a Friday, and I was at work. My phone rang, and it said Beaumont Police. This emotion came over me, and I was like, what, is someone messing with me?
And on the other end of the line was Detective Llewellyn.
He said he's a suspect in a murder. And that's when he started telling me about the DNA. And he said, it is a cold case murder. And I was like, you don't even have to ask. I will go. I will testify. When we hung up, I just broke down. I mean, you just go back to being that girl again, where that fear and all of it just kind of consumes you again.
And so suddenly, all these years later, in a courtroom full of strangers, Paula is telling her story about how she was assaulted by Foreman.
Did he do something with your hands?
He tied them in the back, behind.
He took your hands, put them behind you, and to secure them with an object. Do you believe that object may have been a belt?
Yes.
Did he threaten to cut your throat if you didn't do what he wanted?
Yes. I just kind of blocked out everything else and just focused on the questions.
Did he say something that you found odd concerning what he'd just done to you?
Yes.
What was that?
When I was getting out of the car, he said, "Stop crying. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't hurt you." You have to say these things out loud, and then knowing that he's sitting right over there, and just being in the same room, and that was hard.
She relived it on that stand, and it was amazing to watch her, how brave she was to do that.
You came here today to tell us truly what happened to you 42, 43 years ago, right?
Yes.
Who did you do that for?
For Catherine. I wanted to see justice done for her.
And in the end, Clayton Foreman's defense, they wouldn't call any witnesses, but they did deliver a closing statement.
You, ordinary citizens, get to decide whether or not, on the day in question, January 14th of 1995, Clayton committed the offense of capital murder. He may not like it, what he did back in '81. That doesn't make him a murderer. Doesn't make him that he went out and killed somebody.
The case was very one-sided, and the prosecution had all the witnesses, had all the evidence. There was very little the defense could do.
The verdict is in. 29 years of waiting came down to 7 days of testimony and ultimately 52 minutes of deliberation.
I'll tell you that anytime I've had a jury trial, I'm scared to death when they're walking back in that room. That is the most tense moment ever for me.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the offense of capital murder.
It took police nearly 30 years to bring Clayton Foreman to trial for the murder of Catherine Edwards. It took the jury less than an hour to convict him. It was very fast. He was sentenced to life in prison.
It was just relief. I was thankful that I did it. Thankful that it did help. It did help putting him away.
It was an extraordinary thing to have closure in that courtroom for that young school teacher. And that other case, the mother who was brutally murdered, her baby, just a few feet away. Now, she's about to meet the couple who unlocked this case. As we stand here today, all these years later, it's so peaceful and quiet here. It's hard to imagine what played out behind us.
It is. Thankfully, the detectives worked very, very hard on this.
And never gave up.
Never gave up, and they solved it. Detective Llewellyn called me, and he said, "Hey, Carmen, you remember how you said you always wanted that case solved before you retired? Well, I know you've retired, but I think we got him," and he did.
I can see the satisfaction on your face. Justice after all these years.
After all these years, absolutely.
Justice, finally, for that elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards. And in the second case, justice as well for Kathy Swartz's daughter, Courtney. Hi, Courtney.
Hello. Hi.
So these are the two who helped solve the case.
Hello,
Kristen. Just the idea, though, that the two of them were able to go back and look at that evidence and solve it all these years later.
I'm I don't even have no words.
You don't need words. I'm glad you have answers.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable just in my career to see, like when I started in '97 to where we're at today. You have these cases that are literally going nowhere. You give them this DNA sample and the next thing you know who your suspect is.
Do you think that there are cases like this all over the country right now just waiting to be solved with this new technology?
Absolutely, all over the country and all over the world.
But finding every case, I think, would be the goal. Every one. Every sexual assault, every homicide, every one of them. We need to find those cases and we need to get them submitted and worked.
And that means answers finally for thousands of families.
Sure, absolutely.
There are tens of thousands of little tubes of DNA in crime labs across this country, and all of them have answers.
I think we're going to live in a world in this lifetime where there are no unidentified victims that are named voiceless, where perpetrators are caught the first time they commit a crime.
For some families, you are the last hope.
For many. I don't believe in closure when you've gone through something as horrible as one of these violent crimes, but I do believe that truth allows you to turn the page.
I have been living with this for 36 years, and these people, they took their time. They solved this case with DNA so I can close this book and open up my own book with my own kids. And there's no words for that.